Okay, so yesterday was a consolidation day. It was an inside day. Um, it gapped up. Since the trend is up, it was possible it could have got going. It just didn't. Did have that bounce that we played in the NQs midday, and that didn't quite get as far as it hoped, but it was a decent trade anyway. It was a nice W type of bottom. But so pre-market yesterday talked about the potential for a breakout bar failure. And based on yesterday's close, it certainly looked like it was the potential for that to happen. Now the markets are up here pre-market on some decent earnings. Not so for Amazon, but this Beyond Meatless stock is just amazing. That's not affecting the market much, I don't think, but you can say Intel is up, Amazon is down, Google's up big, Starbucks is up big. So lots of good things still happening in the markets as they consolidate. And we'll see where today ends, but looking at the weekly chart, you can see it's just chopping sideways here. So one of the things that I always do is, when things get choppy like this and they start to, this still makes sense. It's in an uptrend, but it's a consolidation. But just say you see a pattern and you look at that and first thing that might come to mind is that's just a mess. I don't know what to do with it. Go to a higher time frame and see if it does make sense to at least gather a bias, and then you wait for the smaller time frame that you want to use for your entry for that to clean up in a sense and provide a pattern and alignment with the higher time frame. So now we want to see if the markets can take out this green bar is high, and of course that's just a continuation of the trend versus, does it take out this low? And then looking at the spiders, we get an M top, and if it takes out the green bar's low, I suspect it takes out the pivot low. So as long as it stays up here, give or take above the 300 level, the bias would be that it's going to continue the trend and go higher. But so far, the run up has just been a nice consolidation above what we call the void. And that's bullish, suggesting it's going to go higher. Now, next week, we've got the Fed announcement, which everybody expects they're going to lower. Is it 25? Is it 50? And if they don't do anything, look out below. And then we've got the entertaining Democratic debates coming, which probably have zero effect whatsoever on the market. But like I said, it'll be entertaining. So that's the bias there in the S&Ps. Excuse me. Qs here, similar pattern, more of a defined breakout bar failure. So this line in the sand being under yesterday's low, if it breaks below that, odds are it's coming down. If it can create a red bar ignored, that's in alignment with, the bullish trend on the daily and on the weekly. But so far, just sideways here, excuse me, consolidating within this upward move up near the resistance. So bullish there and just this chop going on there. Diamonds, they've been lagging. So we'll see now with McDonald's up. Maybe that can help versus the Boeing negative chart. But, just looking at the weekly, it's the same message, just consolidating. Transports, same message. It's consolidating here, waiting. Can it clear these highs, or is it just going to chop around? And Russell, which was the star, the prior day coming all the way back down, and it looked like it was going to give back everything, which would have been incredible. But I guess it would be incredible in, let's say, a normal market versus what I've coined Mr. Schizophrenic. And this is, looking at a chart, if you wanted a picture of schizophrenic, this is it. Red, green, giant green bar after a attempted breakdown, and then coming all the way back in again. And it's kind of just flattish here, but we'll see what happens here. And you want to definitely keep an eye on this as to whether it can get out of this range one way or the other. So I'll just set alerts and see what happens there. And taking a peek at the futures, just nothing here. Just, so anytime you see, hey, the markets are up here, there's positive news, but yada, yada. Is it breaking out, or is it, getting out of any kind of a range? Did it even clear yesterday's high? And this is nothing, it's just inside the body of that red candle. And so, we kind of raised the bar for the resistance area now being yesterday's high. And while, from a trend perspective, while insignificant based on a trend perspective, breaking below yesterday's low at this point, I think is important as to going down here, especially on some of these positive earnings. I don't know how much, Amazon what is affecting things, but markets are up. But if it breaks below here, I think it, just like what I was talked about, in the ETFs, the attempt is for it to get here. And, then we've got an M top, and, that doesn't get confirmed until breaking below these lows. So just chop until we get something more decisive, at least a break below a prior bar's low or a break above a prior bar's high. So again, from a market perspective, this just is neutral consolidation within this uptrend with the possible potential to move lower. And the odds are with the trend, as we always would look at this, is that, the trends are trump an individual bar, that's for sure. And so the weeklies just look the same as to consolidation after a new high. And so still bullish and waiting to see, do we get a little blip to the downside, or is it just going to be boring into next week, waiting to see, what everybody expects 100% of the Fed, lowering interest rates. And then from there, what's the encore, for the markets to just continue to march higher? Qs, just an inside day there, just a little narrow baby inside day. And, last night, thinking, well, Google's up huge, Amazon's down. And my first thought, well, neutral. And so that's exactly what we've got here. Yesterday was a bottoming tail bar. It came back from the sell-off. And so same story, trend is up, consolidating here, waiting to see, can you get above a prior day's high? Can you get down below a prior day's low? Or are we just going to trade within this range and have a quiet Friday? Dow, the weaker, but down here near this pivot low. Now, the difference between this pivot low, let's go here, and this pivot low is this made a higher high, which makes this our major support point and reference point of the uptrend, right? Uptrend, higher highs, higher lows. Breaks below here, it's not in an uptrend anymore, plain and simple. Whereas this is more of a, let's say, bull flag kind of a pattern where it hasn't made a higher high. So breaking below this low would not violate the uptrend because it hasn't made a higher high. A lot of what we teach in Master Trader Technical Strategies is common sense. Once you start to look at it this way and you learn the approach and the definitions and how we look at things. So no one can deny that even if it breaks this low, it's still above this major support. And, anyone would look at this as a bullish downward sloping consolidation within an uptrend. And a lot of times they blip under the prior low like this, and then they flip back up again. So a little bit of a kind of a fake out pattern, which I really like that pattern because weekly trend is still up, daily trend is still up, and that usually sets up a nice move. Oil, same story. Neutral consolidation. Looks like it tried to move up here and just got slammed back down. Just nothing here, just waiting. Bonds, same story. Neutral, consolidating at resistance. Whether this turns into a head and shoulders top, I had mentioned that sometime this week. You can see it there with the neckline. So waiting to see here, does it come down here and break, or does it resume the uptrend in this consolidation? So there's this resistance area over here, if you were to go and look, which is consolidating right so far bullishly at, even though, you've got this distribution pattern. So head and shoulders tops, they are distribution patterns. Now, does it break lower? And historically, when these reverse up like that, they typically make a violent move out of that pattern, since, again, we say patterns are a display of what people believe in, what they're doing with their money. So they're selling here. And exactly, Alex, that's right. It leads to a big upside move. And I can remember the first time I really experienced that was back, I believe, in 1993, when Dell Computer traded as a public company. And it was having big problems with their computers, obviously. And the weekly had formed this giant head and shoulders top. And, the media was expecting it basically either to go out of business and, go down. And when that thing reversed, it just exploded. And this head and shoulders top failure just became one of my favorite patterns to stalk and wait for it to happen, because they just make such big moves when it does happen. Gold still consolidating, a little move going up here. So here's another little mini lesson, if you will, for intraday traders. When you see moves like this, which are obviously, looking at this chart, is a big move, you got to still put it in a perspective of a higher time frame. There's nothing wrong with trading this on the long side as this gets moving intraday, but putting it in perspective of the bigger picture, it doesn't suggest that you should be thinking this thing's, going to go to the moon, so to speak. It's, it can get in maybe toward the high of that red bar, which is significant for an intraday move. But as always, we take smaller time frames and put them in the perspective of higher time frames and keep our bias in check as intraday traders. Silver, starting to consolidate here. Got that red bar just chopping around here. And that's why Dan finally calls you McGraw trader, because you anticipate. All right, what else we got here? I think that's it. Pretty negative comments yesterday. Mr. Groggy, whatever his name is. I read that article. I was like, wow, it's hard to believe he's even saying Draghi, that he's even saying this, and it rattled the markets. So we'll see whether that rattling leads to something more bearish. A lot of the media yesterday, some of the news was, which Alex, you shared some of the articles, as to many believing that a big correction was coming this quarter. So we'll see if that all follows through. We follow the trends systematically. So we just, as I explained, does this become, well, not that one. Does we get an M top here? Does it break below the low, yesterday's low or high or whatever? So that is it from me. All yours, Dan. A lot of things moving here for you to cover. Don't forget your screen, Dan. You got it.
You can see my screen, right?
Sure do.
Yeah. All right. Just like yesterday, let's go right to the gappers. because I don't see any problems with our opens. If you all have a question on anything, just ask me about it specifically, but then I'll come back after 10-15 minutes and we'll look at them in real time. But this one right here, I just sent an alert out to our swing people. And I mentioned this yesterday into the close, our Zulu Sierra, we have a put spread, and I said it looks like a directional now. Now it's gapping up over it. That looks fantastic. And Barrett and the others, if you can put your drop down to all panelists and attendees. ZBH 131.50, big old gap, but too big. This one, same, big old gap, too big. Carb, big old gap down, but too big. Now, when I say too big, again, since we have new people in here all the time, I'm looking for tier 1 setups, which mean you're in the batter's box at the market open. You're ready to start swinging because the setup is fantastic on multiple time frames. So I'm looking at anything, gappers, non-gappers, just setups that are ready to go. Alex, let's look at yours. EIX, I can't tell where it's gapping. There's no volume. Yeah, MGM's in my list. That's on my list. A little big, but I like the monthly. Target 32. PSX, that's not a tier 1 to me. FTI, it's far from the 20. I don't know what to do with that. Let's keep going with my list. This was an IPO yesterday. Nice close, but big old tails on the top and bottom. But we'll trade IPOs if we get a setup. A lot of them this year, other than like our coffee shop. Coffee shop gave us a beautiful entry down here is a 1, 2, 3. We traded them again right here. I think we traded them here too. And then we traded them again here. We got a covered call on this. WY gapping up to 25.50. What's the high of this? 25.62. All right, so this is nice over yesterday's high. That's a nice gapper. Red bar ignored and a price void. I like that. So that's a tier 1 to me. But remember, step 1 is this pre-market analysis. Step 2 is I need an intraday confirmation in the first 5, 10, 15 minutes. You all got that? 40.34, that's a bullish gap. It's a watch. PSX, that's the one Alex just said. McDonald's, big old gap, 218. For Debbie, we were talking yesterday, we're going to do an MT Live on hedging strategies into earnings, and I'm going to use this one as an example. McDonald's, bullish stock, you want to hold on to it, but you want to lessen the pain if you get an ugly gap. ITW 153.75, that's an ugly gap way down here, but the support. Yeah, option expiration day, definitely McGraw. Let's look for credit spreads that expire today on anything. We just need a compelling setup. Earnings, but I like earnings stocks because the volatility is higher. Absolutely, but we love doing them on the ETFs. Hey Debbie, if you can put your drop down to everybody. Golf Tango 1360, that's an ugly gap, but this prior low, I don't know what to do with it. Now, if you all know, if something's junk, I'll just delete it right away. If I say I don't know what to do with it, that means I'll come back to it in 30 minutes. 2020, that's a big gap down. That's a nasty downtrend right there. We found a number of ugly oil stocks yesterday. This is a mess. I can't tell. Come back to it. Charter, ugly gap, 378. Wow. That's an ugly gap. And that's after an all-time high. You think there's some people in pain? Yeah, McGraw, when you send me big lists of things, I can't go through that whole thing, man. So we can do it together in here. So you sent me like, we'll look at them when things slow down. ABBV 68. Bullish gap at a mass 30-minute high candidate. TMOS, total mass. Team 136, put spread candidate, McGraw. 30, it's a mess, but if it can take out a 30-minute high, then put spread candidate. Starbucks 86, wait, 96. Wow. Can you believe that? Wow, look at that. And you had a beautiful breakdown failure right here. Wow. Now, it doesn't mean I would have bought it because of all this resistance, but it would have, if you were short, that breakdown failure would have said, danger, danger, this isn't going down. There's the MGM we talked about. Any day trades on gappers. Google. The gap's too big, Debbie, for, I don't know. I probably won't know until 30 minutes. And then if we did something like that, it would kind of just be a 30-minute high or low. But big gaps like that are harder. Amazon. Yeah, Amazon could be a call spread candidate, definitely. If it can't bounce, then I like Amazon better than Google. McDonald's, it's holding bullish pre-market. I don't know. I need more information. Mattel, 1340. Big gap, but far from the 20. Juniper, can't tell where it is. Intel coming way in from its pre-market strength. Still a bullish gap, but no compelling pattern to me. FTV, I can't tell where it's gapping. Fizzler, I can't tell where it's gapping. 30-minute high maybe. EXPE 140, bullish gap. Nice monthly. Hey Greg, I remember telling you last weekend this had a positive Barron's mention, and I liked the monthly. So it moved off that article.
So many of these things, Dan, that the dailies really don't look that extended. They look like they're going to go higher. The monthlies are incredible moves, so it feels kind of like we're walking a tightrope with some of this stuff, but you can't deny a trend. So you got to go with until it's over.
Yep. SLG is a bio that had a big move yesterday. Can't tell what it's doing here. KJ is asking about booking. 1941. That's a bullet. That's bullish all time frames there. KJ, all time frames look bullish. I don't know if that's in your trading plan to do a directional, but I like it for a put spread. I'll put that on my list. But yeah, I like the pattern. Yeah, definitely. Historically, he's very spready though, so be careful on that. Aflac, this came in very ugly. Look at this. Gaps negated, green bars negated. We got successive wide range bars. It took out a prior low. The 20 and 50 are rolling. I have zero interest in that. 1 minute to go. Oh, Zulu's on our list here for 1, 2, 3. That looks good. I think I got through them all now. These are yesterday's. JCOM, if it can take out yesterday's high, it's red bar ignored. TTD, McGraw put spread for next week. See if you can get us one, the 235s. Man H, it's extended, but it's, but it's holding like a tank. Snap too, look, it's bullish pre-market. Slab was on my list as a 1, 2, 3, look at that. That's 30-minute high candidate. IQV, I like Wednesday's bar. I like the weekly buy setup. So this is definitely on my long watch list. Look, here's Whiskey Yankee going. That was a tier 1, see? That's a 5-minute high candidate right there. And depending on how aggressive you are, it's not for me, but aggressive 1-minute high. But I like that gap and I like that pattern. I like the shock to this red bar and I like the price void. And this now is kind of a retest. See that? True is still posted as a valid trade. I like this 2-bar reversal here. If this closes like this, I like it over the highs. BYND. Hey, this could be a call spread candidate for today. A gap and crap. It's slicing through pre-market support. I wouldn't do it for next week, but let me check it out for today. Looking at our opens here, Abbott up. Twilio is up, so we're out of the woods on Twilio. That he was a problem child for a little bit. Zulu Sierra, Cyber is up, our Wix is up. Romeo Hotel, Crowd, Zulu Mike. All right, I think all our opens. DPZ is against us a little bit, but there's no adjustments necessary. All right, back to this. No, John, the stop's under the low of the wide range bar. It went against us,